प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की, श्री वृंदावन धाम की, मायापुर धाम की, गंगा माई यमुना माई की, तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की, हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। समवेत गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Vairacharya Astottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastha Bhutale Srimadi Tamal Krishna Goswamini Tinamini. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastha Bhutale Srimadi Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamini. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Desatarini. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nasta Praishu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistikir. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone for our Sunday morning Bhagavatam class. Thank you for being here. Today we are going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, The Science of God, Chapter 7, What Prahlada Learned in the Womb, Text 47. And someone should turn off the Prabhupada's chanting on the altar. Right? I think, they're so absorbed in their service they forget, no? Do we have that? Yeah. Karmani arabhate Dehi Dehena Atma Anuvartina Karma Bihi Tanute Deham Ubayam Tu Avivekataha Karmani Arabate Dehi Karmani Arabate Dehi Dehenatmanuvartina Dehenatmanuvartina Karma Bistanute Deham Karma Bistanute Deham Ubayam tu avivekataha Ubayam tu avivekataha Karmani arabate dehe Dehenatmanuvartina Karma bistanute deham Ubayam tu avivekataha. You can chant. Karmani arabate dehi Ubayam tu avivekataha. Dehenatmanuvartina Karma bistanute deham Ubayam tu avivekataha. Karmani arabate dehe Dehenatmanuvartina Karma bistanute deham Ubayam tu avivekataha. Ladies. Karmani arabate dehi Dehenatmanuvartina Karma bistanute deham Ubayam tu avivekataha. Karmani arabate dehi Dehenatmanuvartina Karma bistanute deham Ubayam tu avivekataha. Karmani material fruitive activities. Arabate begins. Dehi, a living entity who has accepted a particular type of body. Dehena, with that body. Atma Anuvartina, which is received according to his desire and past activities. karma bihi, by such material activities. Tanute, he expands. Deham, another body. Ubayam, both of them. Tu, indeed. Avivekataha, due to ignorance. Translation. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada Ki Jai. The living entity who has received his present body because of his past fruitive activity may end the results of his actions in this life, but this does not mean that he is liberated from bondage to material bodies. The living entity receives one type of body, and by performing actions with that body, he creates another. Thus he transmigrates from one body to another through repeated birth and death because of his gross ignorance. Please repeat after me or with me. The living entity who has received his present body because of his past fruitive activity may end the results of his actions in this life. But this does not mean that he is liberated from bondage to material bodies. The living entity receives one type of body, and by performing actions with that body, he creates another. Thus he transmigrates from one body to another through repeated birth and death because of his gross ignorance. Maybe someone can read the purport.
The living entity's evolution through different types of bodies is conducted automatically by the laws of nature in bodies other than those of human beings. In other words, by the laws of nature, prakriti kriyamanani, the living entity evolves from lower grades of life to the human form. Because of his developed consciousness, however, the human being must understand the constitutional position of the living entity and understand why he must accept a material body. This chance is given to him by nature, but if he nonetheless acts like an animal, what is the benefit of his human life? In this life, one must select the goal of life and act accordingly. Having received instructions from the spiritual master and the Shastra, one must be sufficiently intelligent. In the human form of life, one should not remain foolish and ignorant, but must inquire about his constitutional position. This is called Atato Brahma Jigyasa. The human psychology gives rise to many questions, which various philosophers have considered and answered with various types of philosophy, based upon mental concoction. This is not the way of liberation. The Vedic instructions say, Tad vignartam saguram eva bigachet. To solve the problems of life, one must accept a spiritual master. Tasmad gurum prapadyeta jignasu shreya uttamam. If one is actually serious in inquiring about the solution to material existence, one must approach a bona fide guru. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas darshana. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. One must approach a bona fide spiritual master by surrendering himself, paripatina, and rendering service. An intelligent person must inquire from the spiritual master about the goal of life. A bona fide spiritual master can answer all such questions because he has seen the real truth. Even in ordinary activities, we first consider gain and loss, and then we act. Similarly, an intelligent person must consider the entire process of material existence, and then act intelligently, following the directions of the bona fide spiritual master.
Thank you. Omagyanatimirandasya jananjana shalakaya chakshuzanmiritamena tasmai shri guruve namaha mukam karati vachalam pangum langete girim yadkripatamam vande shri gurum denataranam Paramanandamadam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sodhato Gadodiya Pushpavanto Chitra Sandho Tamonado. Karmani arabate dehi dehenatmanuvartina karma bestanute deham ubayam tu avivekataha. Translation: the living entity who has received his present body because of his past fruitive activity may end the results of his actions in this life, but this does not mean that he is liberated from bondage to material bodies. The living entity receives one type of body, and by performing actions with that body, he creates another. Thus he transmigrates from one body to another through repeated birth and death because of his gross ignorance. So, it's all right. Let me just say this is the pastime of Prahlad with his father Hiranyakashipu, and ultimately with the Supreme Personality of Godhead Nrsimhadev. In the previous chapter, we came across how Prahlad was so deeply realized. He had a very deep understanding of spiritual knowledge, and he was speaking to his teachers as well as to his father. And he practically, by exposing their very limited understanding of the material nature and so on, he made them feel very embarrassed as well as frightened. His father became frightened because he tries to kill his own son, and he is not capable of doing it. And then towards the end, he's thinking, this boy may be the source of my death. So he's awakened. And when the teachers then told Hiranyakashipu, now calm down a bit, maybe when our Sukracharya, a bigger guru, comes, he will sort this out, your son will be okay. So Hiranyakashipu was thinking, okay, but he for the first time in his, you can say, career or life, he became frightened. So then he was thinking, something is wrong. But when the boy goes back to his Gurukul, when the teachers left him alone, maybe it was recess time, break time. So then the boy all the other boys came to him, and then they questioned him, how is it possible that you know so much on spiritual life? We are in the same school, we are in the same kingdom. The only difference, you're the king's son, we are not the king's son. But how is that possible? And so Prahlad then reveals, he tells them that he actually learned whilst he was in the womb of his mother. He tells them his teacher is none other than Narada Muni, and that whilst it so happened that when he was in the womb, when his father was busy doing austerities in, which mountain was that? Mandarachala, yeah. And so whilst he was doing the terrible austerities, the demigods came after his wife Kayadu, and they were willing to kill the child because they were thinking there's a demon in there also. If we get rid of the big one, there'll be another one to take his place, right? So they were thinking it's better to, nip it in the bud, as they say. So they were thinking like that. But fortunately, Narada Muni saw what was happening, and he took Kayadu under his shelter and told her, come to my ashram, I'll protect you. And by doing that, he was also giving her transcendental knowledge. He was teaching Kayadu. Unfortunately, Kayadu was very tired, and she also was fearful for her child. She wanted her child to be protected. So her focus was only on how, and oftentimes when Narada was speaking, she would fall asleep. But there was one person who was always listening, and that was Prahlad in the womb. And it's fascinating, right? Because you don't hear, Aditya and Asmita, they never say that they heard everything your parents were talking or something like that. You don't hear any child nowadays, right? Even Sugopi, even though you're so smart, you haven't heard anything from your parents, have you? So it is fascinating when you think about it. But then we can then understand that is the soul is so conscious. It gives us an understanding the soul is actually conscious. It's not the body, it's the soul. And it's able to hear. And so I believe, I remember one devotee in Seattle when his wife was pregnant, he would play Mozart, Chopin, all this music to his wife, he said, the child will hear, the child will hear. And he would start even playing Prabhupada's lectures and stuff like that, yeah. And interesting enough, that the child is a girl, she took, but she's very smart, I can tell you that much. But as to whether she'll take up Krishna consciousness is something we will have to see, yeah. The point is, they are conscious and they can hear and they can understand. So it's something to think about. And the other interesting thing I notice here is in the translation, Srila Prabhupada, or rather Prahlad is talking about the changing of body, right, and reincarnation. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada just touches a little bit on it, and mostly he talks about taking shelter of a spiritual master. It's a very interesting thing, why Prabhupada focused more on the taking shelter of spiritual master rather than the changing body. Anyone? Not you. Yeah.
Well, Prabhupada is presenting us with the method for freeing us from this repeated cycle of birth and death.
Yeah, that's a very good point. This information about soul and body is not an easy thing to understand. Not everybody can understand. The whole idea is that we are in this material world under the spell of the illusion. Something we don't think about it. And what is this illusion? The illusion is that we are thinking we are very happy. Yeah, so happy. We do not know what is the actual happiness actually. But we think we are happy. In the second chapter, even Arjuna tells Krishna, Karpanya dosho bhata swabhavaha prichami tvam dharma sammudda chetaha. He's saying, I am bewildered, I thought I knew everything, And now in this battlefield, I have to face my own family members, I have to kill them. What does it mean? What is the goal? So Srila Prabhupada emphasizes how that ever so often, when we think we are doing well and everything is okay, some problem rears its ugly head. And we do not know how to tackle those situations. We are not sure how. So it's a constant perplexity that the living entity goes through. He cannot deny that his existence is completely free from illusion and bewilderment and miseries. He cannot deny that. So Srila Prabhupada said that bewildering nature causes us to suffer actually. We are actually suffering. And oftentimes we do not want to accept that. This is the, what is that? Prakshepatmika Shakti. That it just covers, the material energy covers. And the example Prabhupada gives is the hog. Hog. And he says he's eating stool. So he says, oh, what a life. He says, the hog is eating stool. And he's saying, I'm so happy. Right? Whereas from our point of view, when we look at the hog eating the stool, we are thinking, how miserable, how much the pig is suffering, what an abominable life this living entity is going through. So similarly, when we tell people, right, we say no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, then they are thinking, what is there to enjoy? Oh no, my life is finished. Right? They're thinking like that. My whole life is gone. The problem is when we are in this material world, we forget and we don't know what is miserable life. Of course, based on the modes of material nature, whether you are in sattva guna, raja guna, or tamas, accordingly you will think I am enjoying. One in ignorance, totally in ignorance, you can see drunk or in taking drugs or doing some nonsense, mad, and they are still thinking they are okay. I'm doing okay. I'm okay. Pretentious. And then there are people in passionate life. They get what they want, seemingly forgetting that the repercussions that come later on is not the big deal. They say, so yeah, we will suffer anyway, so why not enjoy now? That's another form of ignorance in passion. And the one in sattva guna is, oh yeah, I know how to do this, I'll follow the rituals, rules, everything. Oh, swaha, swaha, I'm okay, everything is good. But then all's well that ends well. They think like that, everything is okay. But they become entrapped in living a life like that, thinking they are okay. I'm okay, you're okay, right? Why worry? That's a logic. Why worry? That nonsense logic. Someone comes after you, trying to kill you, then can you do anything about it? Nothing. So why worry? What kind of logic is that? Right? So people are like that. There's so many foolish way of thinking, So when we don't know what is miserable condition, then we are in need of help. Right? But oftentimes it's very hard to ask for help. So we take the example of Sanatana Goswami approaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's saying, my Lord, people think I am a pandita, I'm a big man, I'm a minister, I'm in an opulent position, I am this, I'm good, I have big associates. People look up to me, I'm so wonderful, But what did he do? He resigned from his ministerial position. He quit. Why? He realized there's something more to life. He developed this vairagya. He wanted to know there must be more to life than this. And I remember very clearly, so distinctly, even now I remember, I was in the second year in my college, and I was sitting in my lab doing my assignment. It was in the evening, like 7, winter time, doing my assignment, and I was doing my assignment. All of a sudden, it was like an epiphany, and I was thinking, is this what I will do for the rest of my life? Yeah, it was so real for me. And I was asking myself, is this it? Is this all? Am I going to graduate and is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? And I was kind of worried and I stopped doing my assignment. And I was just looking and then as Maya has it, my friends came and they say, how's the homework going? I say, oh yeah, I snapped out of reality and back into illusion. And then I continued, and I was also thinking, well, I still need something, At the moment, I'm not sure what, but at least I should get this. Shockingly, this is what happens to most of us. We are always in this illusion, not knowing what to do. Similarly, here you see, even though Prahlad is giving this knowledge about the spirit and matter, it's very difficult to understand in the beginning. It's not possible, right? You go out, you talk to people, you tell them about the spirit, soul, the body. It's not easy to understand. From a practitioner's point of view, having gone through those experiences, we think it's easy, right? This assumption comes into our life and we think, oh, I know how to do, so they should know how to do. But we forget, oftentimes we forget that when we started, we didn't know much. And therefore it's so much not in our mind because we never want to remember our past life. And I don't blame all of us for not wanting to know what we were doing in our past life. But because we forget, we also forget how our situation was. And so we don't understand. So we see here how Sanatana Goswami came to Mahaprabhu and then he says, I'm in ignorance and I'm accepting my body as I am. And so you please help me understand it. So when Prahlad is speaking these words to these boys, he is acting on the platform of a spiritual master. Not just any spiritual master, he's a person who has realized knowledge. So he understands, and therefore when he speaks, the potency is there. Potency is effective when you have realized it. Simply reading and then regurgitating has no effect at all. Hardly, if at all. A person won't feel the bhakti from your heart. The whole process of bhakti is to transplant what we have from our heart to the person we are speaking to. We are trying to convey that message to one another. Yeah, maybe somebody don't like too much light. Yeah, so the same way Sanatan is asking, who am I? Basically we are in ignorance and accepting the body as I am. Mostly all the living entities with animal propensities. That's the difference. What is the difference between the animal and the human being?
Living being has a consciousness in difference to animals.
Hey, animals have consciousness also.
They have intelligence also.
Yeah, so what's the difference? You're supposed to tell me the difference. They can inquire, they cannot understand, yeah. They don't understand certain things. Generally, the animals, even though they are conscious, they are not so deeply understanding why they are suffering. Whereas the difference is the human beings, when they suffer, they can inquire and say, why I am suffering. Whereas the animals will just suffer, right? And they just accept it. So, if we do not cultivate this inquiry, which is what Prabhupada says here, athato brahma jigyasa. Why this situation? Why am I going through this and that? He's asking. Then when he asks, then he can come out of his animal propensities. Now if you do not give up your animal propensities, then as Sukadeva Goswami says, you are just agavan, that means sinful person, right? In the 6th canto he says, you are just a sinful person. And to be sinless, one requires what do you need? Knowledge, jnana. And you also need to be practicing vairagya. Right? Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojana. Janat Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yat Ahaitukam. By taking up devotional service, it is said automatically jnana and vairagya manifests. Right? When you pursue something else, you don't practice vairagya, and you don't understand why I'm doing this also. It feels good, then let's do it. Feels good, let's do it is based on the animal propensities, the senses. If the senses feel happy, yeah, I'll do it. Right? If the senses don't feel happy, then you don't do that. So therefore, one has to approach someone who can actually guide us properly, focus, give us a way to focus and to move forward in our material life as well as actually primarily for spiritual life. This body and soul concept, what is this body and soul? What is that knowledge? What is that knowledge? That is Sankhya knowledge, it is transcendental knowledge. To have transcendental knowledge means you have to know the distinction between body and the soul. Then you understand, I am not the body. And there's only three things that you need to know. Huh? You're not the body? There's a Supreme Personality Godhead? There's a relationship with you and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is all you need to know. And that's what Prahlad Maharaj is trying to tell these boys. Because if you think, oh, I'm going to get another body and then you come back again, there's still so many things to go through, life after life. In fact, puna puna charvita charvananam. You've already gone through this many lifetimes. It's like, I've seen it. It's so disgusting, but I've seen it, kids, they'll chew gums until they suck it out, then take the chewing gum, put it under the table, after a while they come back, pull it off and put it back in their mouth and chew, Where's the joy in that? Truly. This is, and when I read Puna Puna Charvita Charvanana, I'm like astonished, there is a fact. Jai Shri Shri Radha Neela Madhava ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Giridhari ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki Jai, Shri Iskcon Guru Vrinda ki Jai. So we have to approach someone who can help us. We have to accept first that I don't have the knowledge. We have to accept that. And then you can approach someone and say, all right, you seem to know more than me and you seem to make sense, right? Help me out. So, which is what Arjuna approached. Arjuna approached Krishna. Originally his relationship was Shakya. So therefore they were talking happily, hey, this and this. Then at that moment he says, Sishyaste aham sadhimam prapadanya. Say, I cannot be in this relationship as a friend. Because friends means you say something, I say, we laugh at it and we go our own way. We will not, right? It's true, right? So then he says, no, Sishyaste aham. Yeah. I will be your disciple. Then what does it mean? It means you as a guru, if you tell me, because I accept you, if you tell me, I will follow. That is the whole idea that Prabhupada wants to say. So therefore, tad vijñārartam sagurum eva abhigacchate samitpani srotyam brahmanishtam. Why? Because he has brahmanishtam. He's fixed in the transcendental position. He understands the position of Krishna. He understands clearly. And if that person has that knowledge and he's fixed in his position, then he can also make me fixed in that position and understand the position of the Supreme Being. And therefore, one should follow those personalities. One should take shelter of those personality, right? Generally, in the old system, the disciple, he wants to know, he comes to the Guru, he brings his firewood. Why? Because he needs to serve also. Okay, then they do the yagna and he teaches him, follow me, like this, like that. And he understands, okay, as long as I follow, I can learn. It is a fact, right? Let's say a teacher is teaching and you are sitting in the class and I don't like this person. Switch off. You will not learn what the teacher is saying. You can't hear. Right? You may be sitting there, but you are somewhere thousands of miles away. It's not possible to learn, right? We all have experienced that, right? Right? And then in exam time we think, yeah, I remember vaguely what he was saying. So it is like that. Huh? So tasmad gurum prapadyate jignasa shreya uttamam sabde para nishnatam brahmani upasamasrayam. So if you are really serious about this, then you have to approach the Guru, one who understands spiritual nature properly, and then they can guide you. What is that guide? He tells you, do these things now and let us come back and review the progress you have made, like that. Approaching Guru is very important. There's a famous story about, what is that? Jabala and Satyakama, right? Satyakama Jabala, right? There was a little boy, then he used to walk around and he saw, there's a great sage, Gautama, and he was teaching his students, And he felt in his heart, this is what I want. I want to move into the ashram. I want to move into the brahmachari ashram. I want to learn these things. He was hearing Gautama speaking, and he said, he touched his heart. So then he approached Gautama and said, can I, join? He said, who's your father? Who's your lineage? So then I can decide how to teach you, like that. And then he said, he said, let me find out from my mother. And then he goes, and then he asks his mother, who's my father? What's my lineage? And the mother said, I am a maidservant. I've been everywhere, I've mixed everywhere and helped many things. So I must say, I do not know. Then the boy said, then what should I say? You should say, you are Satyakama and my name is Jabala. So you are Satyakama Jabala. And you just tell the Guru. And he speak the truth. Yeah. So then he goes to Gautama and then he tells Gautama, my dear Gautama, I asked my mother and she said she doesn't know who my father is. But I am Satyakama Jabala. He was so strong and firm in his conviction and he tells it to the Guru. And Gautama looks at him and smiles. He says, I can see, your determination and your truthfulness. You did not change. You have been trained already very nicely. And I can see because of that, I can see your nature is Brahmanical. So they are very elevated personalities and they can see. Just like you can see, right, who is a fool and who's not so much a fool. The degrees of foolishness, so we can tell also sometimes. Like that. So that was very favorable. The other one is the position of Dhruva Maharaj, right? And Dhruva, he didn't approach a guru actually. But in Dhruva's case, the whole situation is, when we do spiritual activities, we are trying to approach Krishna, that's right. But you cannot approach Krishna directly. Tat Purusha Niveshaya. One cannot approach on directly Krishna. But rather, it is actually Prabhupada says it's impossible to approach Krishna. Not possible directly. You must go through a spiritual master. Yeah. Yashya prasada bhagavat prasada. Yashya prasada nagati kutopi. One approaches the spiritual master. Who gives him the spiritual master? Krishna gives him. So similarly in Dhruva's case, Krishna sends who? Narada again. So then Narada comes, Narada tests the boy, says, you're a little boy, you don't need to do all this, go home, play with your toys. But the boy showed his determination again. It's fascinating. Again, a young boy, has such wonderful, amazing qualities. But these are personalities that we can learn from. The determination, the proper way. So he shows Narada that he was dedicated, and so Narada said, okay, and therefore he gives him the mantra to chant. Mantra to chant. So, therefore, even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu says, right, Guru Krishna Prasade Bhakti Lata Paya Bija. So, by the mercy of Guru, one gets a spiritual master, and by the mercy of the spiritual master, one gets Krishna. Directly, we are not allowed to go there, because if you try to do that, then it's arrogance. So I can do it my way, right? It's sheer arrogance. So therefore, one cannot just take the Bhagavatam and read and say, I understand. I remember myself, when I was much younger, I was reading reading the Bhagavad Gita. So I came up to chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge. But somehow or other I couldn't click so much in Transcendental Knowledge. I read it, but I still couldn't, so I left it aside. Then I said, let me read the Bhagavatam. So I read the Bhagavatam. So I went up to Canto 4, and then I came to King Prachinabar Harshad and the technical details. I said, this doesn't make sense to me. So then I put it aside. Then later on, my spiritual master said, you give up everything, you follow me. Right? So I spent like 5 years with him, and no time to read. Because he kept me so busy from morning till night, no time to sleep also. So eventually, when the service ended and he went his way to college and I was alone, and then he said, you should give classes. And then I was like, yeah, okay. So I was reading again, and then I was like, there were many parts when I was reading which I could not understand. But as I was reading, I said, oh, so that's what it means. It was later then I realized it's through the mercy of my spiritual master that I could understand some of these things. It's not possible otherwise. So therefore there is, Mahaprabhu says, Krishna, Guru Krishna Prasada. That means both Guru and Krishna must give this mercy. You could sit there, both of you. You don't have to be standing in ceremony. You can sit on the sofa behind you, the bench. It's much easier. Thank you so much. So we get two mercy, right? You get two mercy. You get mercy from Guru and you get mercy from Krishna. But we should be ready to take the mercy. And that's one thing. And we should also want to get the mercy. Right? Otherwise it doesn't work. I was thinking what that is. Somebody is suffering. Isn't it? It's a fact, right? Someone is suffering. So if without serving a Vaishnava, we cannot get liberation. Nobody has attained liberation without serving. Just like when Prabhupada came, so many devotees served him, and therefore you can see they are so advanced. So much realization they have, and they can easily take away. In the morning, sometimes when we come, there's fog, and we cannot even negotiate our walk to the temple. It's so thick sometimes. But as soon as the sun comes, the fog is dissipated. So it's just like that. The Vaishnavas are so powerful that they, simply by their grace and mercy, they can clear away this fog-like situation that we are in, that we cannot see. They can clear that. Nowadays also there's so many people who claim to be gurus, but they are all gorus. That means cows and asses, Prabhupada says. Guru, not guru, nonsense. and they think they know everything. I also remember when I was 14 years old, my brother bought a Bhagavad Gita, and it wasn't Prabhupada's book, but it was some pseudo character. But anyway, I remember reading, and then one point the guy says, you have to meditate within yourself, and then you become free from everything. And I think at that time I was going through some difficult situations. So I say, wow, let's see if I can get away from all this difficult situation. I tried it for 10 minutes, I said, this doesn't work. Then kept it in the drawer, and for the next 10 years it sat there. And then when we got Prabhupada's books, we threw it away, yeah. Useless topics, they were basically cheaters. They are not even conversant with the preliminary knowledge about the body and the soul. They don't even know those things, and yet they want to profess to speak on spirituality. So we see a lot of people do that, and therefore we should be very careful. Otherwise we all end up going through the three kinds of miseries: Adhyatmika, Adibhautika and Adi-Devika. The mind and the senses give us problem from morning till evening until you go to bed. Sometimes even those who go to bed, the mind gives troubles through nightmares, through stress. Oh no, what's going to happen tomorrow? And then they cannot sleep the whole night, right? And calculating and looking at their watch, looking at their phone, right? So the mind gives so much stress. And then Adi-Bhautika, living entities. Other living entities give you distress. Maybe outside your house, so the construction, they pile the whole day, and you in your home you're just going like that. Headache, stress. You don't know what to do at all, right or not, Ravi? Yeah, he's experiencing that. So this is the way. And then mosquitoes, right? Summertime mosquitoes. Or in-laws, mother-in-law, father-in-law. All these are Adi-Bhautika, suffering. And then ultimately it is then Adi-Devika, right? The climate changes, there's famine. There's so many things, tsunami, low-lying areas are flooded, stuff like that. You can't escape those things. These three things are always going to be here, and they are necessary so that we can understand this is not our situation. We are like fish out of water. You can give the fish a nice asan, give it nice gulab jamuns, you can give it anything, a cigar, everything. The fish will say, put me back in water. I'm not interested in all these things. So we are spirit souls. We are in like a fish out of our original spiritual place. We are now in a material realm. We are out of that situation. So the spiritual master can help us. Samsara, Davanara, neither loka, right? We are suffering in this burning, but out of his mercy, his ocean of mercy, he will pour and refresh us, and then we can get out from this. So I'll stop here. Comments, questions? Yeah. No. He can't ask any question. Yeah. Others can, yeah.
So, when I was reading the purport of this one, I felt there was a very nice point which talks about this body. Prabhu, can you run the purport?
You want to read that again?
It's like profit and loss.
Oh. Towards the end, huh?
Like when we purchase anything, we consider so many things. There's little up, that loss.
Yes.
Yeah. So even if you purchase a car or a TV or anything, you do a lot of calculations for the profit and loss. But what Prabhupada is saying is, you should consider the same fact for getting this human form, the profit and loss of what we are doing. That's a great preaching point.
Yeah,
for this,
that's a very good
book
point.
distribution as
Thank
well
you.
as
Yeah, this is like you want to go to college. How many colleges you review, right? And say whether this is good, this is good. So similarly, spiritual life also you should ask who can really give me the best knowledge. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for bringing it up. Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. I like this verse because it dispels this common conception that you find, especially in the West, that when you die, everyone's going to heaven. They always talk about, oh, they're in a better place now, and this and that, and not necessarily true. I mean, people want to believe that because, it's a little scary because people don't have any knowledge about death, but this verse is saying that it's not necessarily true. You get your next situation according to your actions. So that's very interesting. And Narada Muni also says this in another place that
Jai Shri Radha Nilamadu ki Jai, Shri Radha Giridhari Giri Govardhan ki Jai, Shri Shintai Chaitanya Chanda Shri Shintai Gaura Chanda ki Jai, Iskcon Guru Vrinda ki Jai.
And they make movies also to keep this going. All dogs go to heaven, and all these sort of nonsense things.
That's interesting.
It's a good movie, but it's not reality, just in case you were wondering. But in the fourth canto, Narada Muni gives this amazing explanation, saying that the gross body on its own will automatically develop, and that your end of your karmic cycle is there, and then death happens. And he says that the subtle body, you have to deliberately develop it. That it's not like the gross body, which will go through its own changes automatically. Yeah. That you can stay in the same, I've seen so many people, they're 40, 50 years old, they're still acting like they're teenagers, So you have to actually be introspective. You actually have to try to develop the subtle body.
But they need to know what a gross body is and a subtle body.
Yeah, you have to know these things. But even you have to deliver it, you still have to develop it. Yeah. You can know, but then not develop it also. Yeah. So that's also...
Therefore you need someone who can give you that ability to understand, yes, I have to develop this. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, I wanted to ask why service to the spiritual master allows us to understand knowledge more deeply.
It's the mercy of the spiritual master.
Okay.
When you serve the spiritual master, out of his kindness, the spiritual master prays for the advancement of the disciple, and he feels, anyway, when you look at someone suffering, don't you feel sorry for them? Yeah, so in the same way, when the disciple serves, the spiritual master feels great compassion and say, this person shouldn't remain here, he should go back or she should go back. And so they pray to the Supreme Lord to bestow His mercy. And that's why we make advancement. Prabhupada, in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in that, I think Tat Pranipayatana, the verse towards the end, he said, the secret of spiritual life is pleasing the spiritual master. Yeah. So that is the reason why one should serve and be very pleasing to the spiritual master. Yeah. Adaji? No? Sugopi? Yeah? Yeah? Oh yes. Let Samant Prabhu, our Pandit, don't be abandoned.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, a wonderful class. It reminds me that somewhere it said that avidya kama karma. It starts with ignorance.
Yeah.
And then you have developed desire to enjoy, and then object of enjoyment is not free, so you do karma. Avidya kama karma, and we get entangled. And somewhere in the first canto, Naraji gives the solution to Vyasadeva. He says that if you go to a marriage and have a masala milk, and if you take more glass, your stomach gets upset.
Yeah.
But to cure that, the solution is yogurt with some herbs and therapeutically applied. So the activities what we do, same activities, just dovetailing, therapeutically applied, will not have karma bis tanute na deham. It will not do that, and that knowledge, that doctor is that spiritual master, that he will heal it. That's why somewhere Narottam Das Thakur says, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistar Paibe Keva.
Yes.
That living service to the devotee of spiritual master, nobody can get benefit.
Yeah. Thank you. Very nice. Thank you.
I was just going to comment on Nanda's question also. Well, we've also hear that with devotional service comes causeless knowledge and renunciation. So I thought that was a factor. And how we can go deeper by service to the Guru is just bhakti itself produces knowledge.
Nice. Like that point, yeah. Yeah.
I appreciated your point about the necessity of taking a spiritual master rather than just trying to go straight to Krishna, because that would be actually motivated by, it would be arrogance, and actually that desire to be the controller and the enjoyer is the reason why we came to the material world in the first place. So so actually the essence of that, of getting free from that, is actually giving up this false identity of being the enjoyer and doer, which necessitates surrendering to somebody else's authority.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a wonderful class. Just we're thinking about the relationship with the spiritual master and the fact that we need to surrender, but at the same time to not accept blindly, keep inquiring, as in the purport of Prabhupada stress out. And we're thinking about also the end of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna tells Arjuna, Vimrishayate da sheshena yatecha sitata kuru, deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I guess there is also a sort of threshold between like listening to the instruction and don't understand it. Anyway.
Yeah, one has to ask and then act on it. Not simply ask several people. Sometimes we have a tendency, right? Prabhu, what do you think? Mataji, what do you think? And then we think our own thing, right? Right? What's the point in asking, right? So sometimes if I know the person well, I say, will you take the instruction, or are you just asking for the sake of asking? Yeah. No, honestly, otherwise there's no need to waste time sometimes, yeah. Because if you're going to do what you want, why even I bother with that thing? So yeah, it's a good thing that you brought that up also. My own spiritual master, many times he said that to different disciples also, because I'm there when he's meeting them, so he tells them, why don't you write to me and ask me? Why did you make your own decisions? What's the point of me being your spiritual master? Yeah. So oftentimes we think we know a lot, yeah, but actually submission, it's an art actually. And to learn it properly, we have to learn it among Vaishnava Sangha. And then we know how to surrender properly also. Yeah. Anyone else? Anything else? Okay. Thank you so much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi.